Camera good.
Oh, I'm looking up.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And it is rare, but always welcome to have back a guest that was so cool, so artistic, so connected to a lot of things and a lot of new updates as we were at an event 2 weeks ago or something. And she was like, I need to come back because I'm going to be traveling the world with this art. So when we think art, whether it be visual art, whether it be fashion, high fashion, and then just all around like installations and things that you may not even think is art, you need to connect in Detroit with Sabrina Nelson. Sabrina, how are you?
I am wonderful.
Okay, I like wonderful. That's an adjective not used often.
I like wonderful because people normally ask, how do you feel? And my answer directly is with my hands, my heart, and my eyes. But you didn't ask that. You asked, how are you? I am wonderful.
I like it. I like it. I would have went feel because I often ask how you feel too. But see, it was only supposed to be an energy. So last time we explored so much of your path in artistry. And your path in artistry, I suggest everybody go back and watch that. And it led to like a big installation that she was doing, and that was really cool. And you connecting the birds.
I did. We were talking about why you want to fly blackbird, and I was talking about the connection from the 15th century of what we call groupings of animals. And when you call a group of crows, you know the answer to that, right?
The group of crows.
Yeah.
Let's see. You know I'm going to be feeling this, but I remember from the interview you shared it. What's a group of crows?
A group of crows is called a murder of crows. Mostly everyone knows that. Like there's a herd of this, a bevy of that, and these names were given in poetic prose to groupings of animals. And so you have a herd of sheep and so on. And most people know, based on folklore and stories that people have written, that whenever a group of crows is together, they call it a murder of crows. And whenever a group of ravens are together, they call it a conspiracy or an unkindness. So with groups of black and brown animals, we give them these ominous names because we're afraid of their brilliance and their genius. And we all know that those corvid animals have memory. They can remember faces. They can speak often, repeating after the sounds that we make, that we call words. They also can solve puzzles and open doors. And whenever they are in a group and they feel attacked and they remember the face of the person who did something to them or the animal who did something to them, they will warn the other birds in the group about that particular animal. So they have face memory. And so I think of the crow and the raven, of two of the most brilliant animals with wings. And so we like to think we're the only ones on this planet that are really great beings. Those particular corvid birds are, and I use them in talking about mothers who lose their children to murder because others don't value our children like we do. And so that was that series that I am not finished with because the world has not stopped killing us.
So that continues to carry on in it. So we can talk a little bit. Let's start there. So artist that's also worked with and supported so many other artists, and whether it be teaching, whether it be advocating for opportunities, also like people may know it's a lot of other art opportunities that present themselves and people ask you for your opinion of, you know, hey, is this good and how does this work in the city? Where does it fit in the city? You're as they say, a tastemaker and also a teacher and an artist yourself. And being that this process that you talk about, even with the installation you have, you're still working on, like almost like a work in progress of the art. And we've seen, you know, works in progress of art for a lifetime in Detroit through the Heidelberg Project and what Tyree Guyton has done. And I'm just bringing that up more so in name for people maybe to connect to something. But there are many other pieces that sometimes artists are working on in development and may show a little bit of what that is or see more and add to. What is that process like when you say, okay, like, is a work really ever completed by an artist? That's the first question. And then the second one, when is it time to reveal and share some of your works with the world because it's such an intimate process of creation and building it itself?
Okay, so thank you. That was a really great statement, opening question. I want to go back just a little bit and say that what we're having, is a call and response. Some people call it a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so most artists are having visual conversations. I am an interdisciplinary artist, so I don't just paint, I don't just draw. I make, I create in my head and my heart and my hands a conversation that I'm having with myself first and then with the audience that may come to see the work. And in that conversation or series, the Blackbird series, that's one conversation I'm having. I've had to lay that down a little bit, and that doesn't mean I'm not working on it. What it means is it's so heavy, I have to put it down and give my arms a rest because my heart can't handle listing the names. We spend so much time online, and online spends so much time on us, right? Where it's the chalk marks of someone who used to live, or the hashtag of their names, or watching the video footage of their mother's wail. Even if you don't speak the language they speak, you understand wailing. So as we witness what's happening in Philistine, in the Sudan, in IAT, or in the Congo, and we witness the deaths and the murders of other beings who are black and brown people. And we're over here complaining often about, girl, I didn't get my lashes done, or my nails, or I just didn't get the grass cut, you know, or I should probably go to this party, but I don't mess with that person. So, depending on what privilege we have the opportunity to pretend it doesn't exist. But if you see it and you feel it, and we are all frequencies and vibrations. My daughter was doing a project on cymatics, where it's, and our bodies are 70% water. But and I hope I'm saying the word right, but with cymatics or cymatics, you change the shape of something with the vibrations, and you can choose the matter. It could be water, it could be sand, it could be anything. But the vibrations and frequencies around it will change the shape. Most of the shapes that we see are like sacred geometry. And we are water. So the frequencies and vibrations that we are exposed to also change us. And we might not see it in a physical format, but psychologically, this full moon in Scorpio, and the way the water and the tides are and the way the people are, that's why there is a word called lunatic. It comes from lunar, and the beginning of that word means moon, right? More people go into emergency and psychiatric wards during full moon times than any other time on the calendar, because we are affected by what's happening around us. And I'm not just talking about us causing situations, because we do that too, but we are a part of it. And the situation that we're in forms us. Some of us, it tightens up our chest, our ears and shoulders get closer together. Others, we have hardened ourselves to it, so we don't pay attention to it anymore. Some of us, and I will say me, I look at it as my responsibility to talk about the time that I live in. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be deep diving in the news every day and trying to find all the names of those who were murdered. What it means is I'm going to be open, and whatever comes to me, I'm going to call it divine timing and divine news. And how I respond to it is the only thing I can control. So I use my artwork as a response to what's happening in the world that hurts and sometimes brings me joy. So I say I'm living in a constant state of gratitude, grace, and grief with moments of joy. And this work will never be completed because we are people and people be peopling. People will never stop killing each other until we're all gone. I mean, that's from the beginning of man. You know, Cain and Abel, from whoever, however, whatever folklores or stories you believe in, whether it's from the Quran or the Bible or whatever holy papers and those prophets or those who told the stories have told us on this floating rock. We will continue to hurt ourselves by hurting other people because we don't truly love ourselves. So I have to put that down. Now, just for a second. So that work will never be completed because I'm a witness. Now, maybe when I am gone, that work can live on, but that's a conversation that I feel like I just need to be quiet for a second and listen. And when I share it, I feel like, or when do I share it? I feel like any work that I'm doing, it has to be shared. I have to get it out of my head, out of my hands, out of my heart. And I want to have conversations with other beings about it. And I'm like, you know, like when you're sitting in a movie and then you do a review afterwards and you'll ask somebody, did you see that? Did you see that? Like the Book of Clarence or the Book of Eli or, you know, whatever you watch. And then you have to have a conversation because you got to get out of your head. So I think most artists do that just to get out of their head. But also you put it on the wall in a clean space where you can think better because your studio is your sanctuary. It is a place of solace. It is the place where you fight with the question. You figure out how you are answering it or if you're just asking it. And so when it comes out of the studio into a public space, whether it's a mural, whether it's online, whether it is in the studio, whether it's in the museum or in a gallery, you're putting it up there for it to be interpreted by anybody in any way. Because sometimes what you say depends on the language, and its interpretation depends on the language that the person is receiving when they see it.
Okay, and I love that you unpack that the way that you did so beautifully. So a lot of artists, please take notes on that. I loved even the way that you said that it's that conversation you're having in your head, in your heart, and to welcome others into that conversation to even get other perspectives on it. Uh, that's deep. That's deep. And as you say also that the work is never finished. That's interesting as the idea of, you know, some of the greatest pieces, as they say. It's like, you know, they don't ever want them touched again. They don't never want more paint on a Picasso or something like that. Whereas as an artist, you feel as though there is more to a story. There is more art to add. So you also have like this world in artistry that's the like I guess the the collector world, the money world, the business of it itself that's looking for something to quote unquote be completed and also in sharing in that conversation themselves. So I give that long lead in to get to this question. As there are other people with your works, there are people that have a Sabrina Nelson in the crib, places, institutions. What happens in that conversation as others take on a piece of that work that you have that you share?
What do you mean? Say that one more time.
Meaning, where does the conversation go from there? that when the Sabrina Nelson piece is at that gallery, because they're going to add it to their collection, at the collector's house because they're adding it to their collection. You know, a friend has an establishment and it's like, look, I think your art would set this off. What happens to that conversation at that point?
Well, one of the things that artists and people can't be responsible for is people's interpretation. If you're in the room and you get to talk about your work, it's a beautiful thing. If I get to usher you in and say, here's what I was thinking when I made this, here are some of the key points that I wanted to get across. Now, it doesn't always come across that way. Your interpretation is in your head, in your heart, in your hands. When you leave that piece and you hang it on the wall, it becomes a public piece. And I'm just going to use, for example, if you're listening to this and you are in Detroit, because Detroit is different, if you know Sidney G. James and you know the mural of Halima, the girl with the D earring that is now on East Grand Boulevard as you head east, and it is, I would say, south of North End,
Yeah, it's the Chroma building.
the Chroma building, right? When you look at the piece, do you think immediately of the canon that it comes from, the European art, the girl with the pearl earrings? Most folks that are in the streets that are riding by may not know the girl with the pearl earrings. They might know Halima. They might know Sidney G. James and Birdcap and all of the partners that she pulled in to collaborate with her on her vision and to execute her idea. So if you are an art historian or if you studied art history, if you know and you visit the Detroit Institute of Arts and you know the girl with the pearl earring, it's a pretty great idea and rendition. But to turn it into something that is purely what up though Detroit, to put Halima in there, you know, a master artist, also a friend of Sidney James, like they've been sisters for a long time. And to know that Halima has done so much work in reducing the carbon footprint of people who use fast fashion and throw it back into the oceans, and it destroys folks that look like us, right? And so to know the stores at the bottom of the garment are all related to important places that are North End that were black in, you know, just black owned spaces. And so it can be one thing to one person and another thing to somebody else. And so we don't often get to say what we want it to be often. But when we're still here and you can ask us, we can tell you what our intention was. But you're going to see something completely different, just like the conversation we had about color. You know, whether or not this dress is salmon, peach, pink, you know, terracotta, brick, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be whoever is interpreting it. So Anais Nin says, we never see things the way they are. We see things the way we actually are. So when I put my work on the wall, you're wired differently. You come from a different place that I come from with different ages. You know, we got all these things that we have in similar ways, but also differences. So whoever's looking at your work is an interpretation of how they are, you know, just made and who they are. So it's a good thing to put your work on the wall and you be there and you get to talk about it. And that's why we have artist statements or their vision, or we can tell you what we were looking at, you know, and sometimes folks will be like, nah, that's not what I see. Just like that Detroit Hollywood sign that people on 94 are seeing as they head into the city. Some of us were pissed about it. Others of us don't care. Some of us are like, wow, that's so nice. You know, it just depends on how we're wired. I'm an optimist. I just see it the way I am.
Okay. And this kind of leads to my Detroit historian concept. Like,
Okay, come on, Jamon. Shout out to Jamon
shout out to Jabbar.
and Mario, because Mario is a visual. historian, because everything he does, it comes from the base of where he's from and the research he's done on history here.
Okay, so like a piece like The Spirit of Detroit that was gifted to Detroit.
Yeah,
Pieces
by
like
Frederick Myers.
and visions that live almost now like as a staple. Like I think of that, and you're right. Probably at the time somebody walked up to it and said, "Psh, this ain't sweet." You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
and why ain't he got a jerry curl? Anyway,
Or something like that. I mean,
or an afro.
if the Spirit of Detroit had an afro, that would be mad.
Well, I've always thought the Spirit of Detroit should really be the Nkisi and Kandi. That's the big nail piece inside the DIA that comes from the Congo with the conch shell in the belly. And what it is it's a promise keeper. You put a nail in and you have an Nkisi bag, which is a whole bunch of spiritual things in the small bags that are that are attached to the nails. There are no bags on the nails anymore because I'm sure it was stolen from some village. Anyways, you put the nail in and you make a promise to do something in the village in front of many people. The Nganga takes it to his place and he takes those promises up to God. When those promises are broken, the spirit of the Nkisi attacks you. So I've always said the spirit of Detroit should be an Nkisi, and we wouldn't have had embezzlement. We wouldn't have had a lot of things, because once you take on the position to be the leaders of the community, you make a promise to take care of us all and not yourself first.
Okay, now we're talking politics.
That's politicking, but
I
I'm
have
just
I have
saying
this
that
question.
statue.
But I think oftentimes, even when it comes to politics or any position of leadership, I actually look at it like how you interpret art. A lot of our breakdown of what we think fair is, what we think a challenge is, what we think work is, like all of these things play out. And that's one of the toughest things about people being in a leadership position of others, how they're strengthening their skill sets to empathize and sympathize with the lifestyles and the understandings of others and what a person's going through.
You shouldn't have to sympathize and empathize when you're a leader. I mean, you do what's right. I mean, you can have feelings and you can be kind. And if you're right, you're right. Like if you're gonna run for the job means get in there, do what you're supposed to do, protect the people, and be right. I mean,
I would
mm,
I would
I
think
mean, you know, and there's discernment. You know when you're right and when you're wrong.
and see, and that's where I think that within it, the relativity of that still has so much to do with the lens of which a person's perspective
Absolutely. And
comes
when you
from.
got shit on your lens, what is that saying?
But that also goes back to like having, to me, what I believe is the empathy to be able to say, okay, I'm not, for instance, my caretaking journey with mine and everything. I do not have early Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's, but within it, I'm learning a whole lot more now
Right.
about the whole concept of what that was, even more so than when I was a child looking at my grandmother. So I would speak to any person now. If now I would say, like, look, if we're gathering a group of people in their as they're aging.
But you're talking from a point of perspective of somebody who's going to go find the answers.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a researcher. You wouldn't be doing this if you weren't mentally stacked up or fortified with information. Because if you don't know how to do it, you're going to find somebody who does. You're going to get it done by any means necessary. Most people, I think, and just the folks I know that are running right now, and I'm not talking mayor, I'm talking presidential, there's a level of ego,
I definitely think that.
right? And if you can't figure out why stuff keep happening around you, it's got to get to a point where you got to look at yourself and really be like, could it be me? But and if you don't have that discernment, get your ass out the race, because you can't protect people when you just see yourself. And so I'm just thinking about, how we, if you can't do it, you need to have people around you who can help. Like, there's a team, there's not just you. And if it's just you and you keep talking about you, then your ego is taking the place of, I don't know if the word is parliamentary discernment. Like, you need to be able to think collectively and what's best for the people. And if you can't figure it out by yourself, you got to have people around you who are way smarter than you. If you're the smartest one in the room, you in the wrong room.
I highly agree with that. And I guess that's just where, back to language and interpretation. I mean, for me to be grounded like that definitely takes empathy, meaning that I can see knowledge and wisdom to many people, especially when it comes to those, as you said, you're going to seek out the person that can deliver upon the task at hand. And that's where my discernment comes from, my understanding of this person being able to deliver upon a task at hand. My florist. Shout out Miss Pittman over there at Brazelton Flowers and everything.
Amen.
I'll go there and I'll say, look, make something colorful. And I just want it to look cool. And she'll be like, all right, what you trying to do, Cart? I'll be like, make it colorful. It's springtime. This is something that I want to shock and be cool. You want a vase? You don't want a vase. It's like I'm trusting in their perspective, even though I've learned so much more about flowers over the years of going to Brazelton, where I think I could probably be creative, but I wouldn't know the same ways of the relationships between the colors and how long it'll live and what's the
What's
right
the
vase.
symbolism of the flowers and all of that. That's why you got to have people around you who know the things you don't, and trust them to do the job with you so that it helps you shine, so you're collectively pulling your whole Star Spangled Banner together, right?
Exactly.
So, but if people who are running for those positions don't do that, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing.
And that's what's so unique about politics, because itself, or politricks, as you would say, it's like a sleight of hand, because there are some people that are best adept to win an election that aren't the best to actually be in the seat that they're running for, because those to me are two totally different jobs at hand itself. Like, winning over a crowd and getting people to vote for you is different than being a politician itself often. And to find a person that matches both, that's a hell of a skill set. And as we talk about matching and connecting, you're going to be traveling the world with art.
Yes.
What's happening? Break that down.
So I was gifted an opportunity to travel to Zimbabwe, Harare, Zimbabwe, through a really awesome program that's connected to CCS and Cheeto Johnson. Shout out to the SATSA Center on the east side, right in Hamtramck. I am going to a workshop and residency where we're going to be doing printmaking, and I'm going to host a workshop with folks there at this center called the Animal Farm.
And this is that connecting and leading and working with others and
Right.
people that you haven't met on in another city, continent.
Way over deep water.
So, so how do you prepare yourself for something like this, and how do you have that confidence and that courage to say, yes, I'm going to take this on?
So the question usually for me is, are you ready? And my answer is always, I stay ready. So I don't have to get ready.
That is also a sugar-free song,
Oh,
but I
hey.
feel that, yeah, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Right. I prayed for this life. And as I am receiving the blessings of creativity and the fruits of the labors that I've worked in, the 57 cycles around the sun that I've been in, I think I'm shocked in most cases that I get to do what I love every single day. Like I work in a nest full of creativity. I work at CCS. This is my 29th year. Next year will be my 30th year. I started when I was nursing Mario pretty much. It was in 87. He'll be 37 this year. That's how I count how long I've been a part of CCS. Cheeto has been raised in Zimbabwe, so he has a gate that he can open and make possible for opportunities to happen for our students who are parts of our arts and craft and material studies, what we call studio arts or studio practice, which when I was a student there was called fine arts, and Cheeto is over our sculpture students and the studios. And so every year they usually take a trip to Zimbabwe, and there's a cultural exchange that happens. And it's usually a study abroad program. This year they were not able to do it under that moniker because there weren't enough students that signed up. But the students who did sign up decided they were going to go anyway. And the Zimbabwe Design School is always looking for an artist to host and also give an opportunity to create their own work. And so I was picked this year because Cheeto submitted my name. And so I've been a part of Cheeto's community when he first came to CCS. And, you know, I just thought he was just this weird guy. You know, I was like, you Cheeto Johnson and you from Zimbabwe and you so white? And I'm like, what's happening? And he was like, well, my parents raised us there. And, you know, they were from Texas and we went and I grew up and he can speak Shona. And he's an artist. His sister was an artist and his brother is an artist. And they're all art educators and beautiful people. And I met his parents. And so whenever Cheeto can take students and push people like me and do collaborative art projects where I'm drawing the post office in Harare and somebody from there is drawing our post office, and we did this postcard exchange. This was almost 10, 15 years ago. And we've had these Zoom conversations over, you know, the internet over years. And so now I finally get an opportunity to go, and I'm going to be there 2 weeks before the students get there and really navigate myself through their land. And I've never been to the continent, and I've always wanted to, and I've always prayed to go. And so, like I said, I feel like my prayers are being answered. I'm going to represent the artists and the creative community here, there, and I'm going to do the best work that I can to make us all look good. And so I'm ready to go. I ain't packed, but I'm not going to go, and I'm not going to be full throttled unicorn that Sabrina is here. I ain't wearing all the shiny shit. When I went to Haiti, we stayed in Port-au-Prince and City Soleil, and you just don't flex when you come from here. I'm going to work, so I'm putting on my work clothes.
So, with that, now even more questions because part of, especially anyone that knows you and connects between DJing, the visual art, fashion, and as you'll learn when you check out that original Sabrina, Detroit is different. Fashion is a part of that expression too. And even in something subtle, I'm sure it'll have the nuance, the looks, the flavor of Sabrina. But you talked about navigating, ingratiating yourself, getting an understanding for the culture, the people, and being there to like really, you said, ground yourself there. What's that process? You've traveled the world. What's the process when you go to a new space? How you ground yourself in that space?
Well, I will say that I am my great grandmother's child, and Tiny Magnolia McKinney or Mitchell McKinney has instilled in my heart that when you go somewhere as a guest, you must leave it better than when you arrived. That means I am taking with me all of the ancestors who are in me that survived all the things that they survived so that I could be here in this moment talking to you. That means I'm taking my whole family, I'm taking my city, I'm taking my country, and I'm going as a guest. And they're going to set out all the tools and all the things that they're going to set out to be the best host in terms of their hospitality. Whatever they offer, however they give it to me, I'm just going to make sure that if it's straw, I'm going to make sure I spin it into gold. So, as a guest, and for those of you who don't know, I speak in poetic prose. I'm not sorry. You can figure that Cinderella quote out when you're ready. But whatever that, I know my daughter and the students that are going, it's 10 students, and then there's maybe 4 or 5 women who travel the world. And I know they're black women. I think one of them might be Zimbabwean. They're going to stay at this Airbnb that's going to be way nicer. Like they out in Bloomfield Hills. I'm going to be over here on 16th or 12th Street because that's where the school is, right? So I'm going to be right wherever,
People are.
where the people are. So I'm going to engage in the way that I'm wired. I don't think I'm going to do anything differently than who I am. I'm sure it's also their winter. So there shouldn't be a lot of bugs. It shouldn't be overly hot. It's like it is right now, but it might get up to 70. When we had some nice days, we're like, oh, like in the Wiz where they come out the wall and we're like, yes, look at this. So I'm going to enjoy being a guest. I haven't been a guest, and at home we take it for granted because this is ours. You know what I'm saying? This is ours. We feel like this whole planet is ours. And so I feel like the planet is mine. I'm a guest on it. I'm going to respect it and do the best I can to listen and learn. And if there's a call, also respond.
All right. So with this being like in play and planning and preparing yourself for what this will be, the natural next question is what's next creative after that? So do you come back? Is it like, okay, I want to come back with my Zimbabwe pieces, or is it like, okay, let me just chill and let me be in presence of mind while I'm there and experience that? Is it what conversation do you pick up next? I
Well,
guess.
I haven't stopped having the conversations I'm having. Like my
Okay.
head is going to be with me everywhere I go.
Okay.
And my heart is going too. So I'm still having this conversation about frontline prophet James Baldwin, where I'm talking about what he said, his words he used, his steps he took, his actions in creating a voice and space for those who didn't have a voice and space for themselves as a civil rights activist, as a writer, as a poet, as a human. I feel like I'm a visual poet. I'm not, I am in no way, shape, or form like our poet laureates that walk amongst us every day. But I know when I make a mark, when I add my thing to my installations, when I use my voice, I am certainly saying something that needs to be said and just to get it out of me. So when I return, I will make my way to Chicago because I'll have a show there, which is traveling in a couple days from Oakland, California. It came from Harlem first, then New Orleans. Now it's in Oakland, and it will go to Chicago, and it will land in Detroit on August 2nd, James Baldwin's 100th birthday. And then we will go to Paris in September to celebrate James Baldwin with people all over the world in Paris, but in September after the Olympics. So, I'm still having a conversation with James Baldwin. The pieces in my studio right now are all talking about his relationship to Paris and his relationship to this country and his relationship to being a prophet to his people. And we're everywhere. And so when I am in Zimbabwe, I'm sure I'm going to develop another piece that I will dedicate to Paris for the James Baldwin show because all those pieces are new. And like I said, I had to put a pause on the why you want to fly blackbird, because I'm too busy having spiritual conversations with James Baldwin because of what's happening around the world. And so I just keep hearing his words in The Fire the Next Time, the book that he wrote to his nephew, as a warning. You know, we are all James Baldwin's nephew and nieces. And so, how to move about the planet in a way that says, this is our planet, we all belong here. And so that's what James Baldwin was saying. You know, I'm not your nigga. I don't know why you needed one in the first place. That's on you, not on me. So you need to figure that out. Why do you think you're better than me? And so, with those words and how things are going around the planet, I'm just listening to him in my head tell me more about who he is, who he was, and what our tasks are since we're still here. And so I just want to bring parts of him back to life through my artwork and baptize people in the image of who he was to me. Whether we're using augmented reality, paint, paper, pencil, stitching, sketchbooks, but having two really amazing co-curators, Ashara Ikandayo and Omomisha McGowan, helping push his name back in the forefront. Because if you ask a young person who James Baldwin is, most of them don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but people, I would say, in their 30s and their 40s, yeah, they got it. But there's also book banning. And so people who are not yet to come may not ever know him if we don't keep lifting his name, or names like Toni Morrison or others where they're banning books.
So the question that I have for you would be, what about Baldwin's work speaks to you where you feel as though right now, this moment as of now, is so much more present?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I listen to Rick Rubin a lot. I think he's a great guy. And in terms of a life art philosopher, right? I think people like him, you know, that are walking amongst us now, and people like, you know, James Baldwin, who is spiritually with us still, and Toni Morrison, who said, if you want to fly, you got to lay down the things that weigh you down so that you can soar. So everybody had these nuggets. And I think James Baldwin gave us all of these nuggets and warnings of what was happening in Palestine when he was alive. You know, and it's still true. And so if you spend time even just listening to him and Nikki Giovanni when she was 28 years old and now she's 81, you know, have the conversation about love and what it is to be authentic and honest, and to also be responsible for telling one that you love the absolute truth. Even though Nikki was like, no, I need you to lie to me. Lie to me like you lied to the man. And he was like, I can't. And she was like, why not? He's like, because I love you and it's my responsibility to tell you the truth. I must tell you the truth. And she's like, nah, you've been smiling and grinning all day with the man, but you can't, you give him the best parts of you. And he's like, that's not the best parts of me. She was also 28, but she stood her ground in that conversation about love and what you give the ones that have agape, self-emptying love for you versus those that don't. And so as one who, you know, by the way, Ashara got the name of the show. She named the art exhibit Frontline Prophet because she was listening to Dr. Cornel West have a conversation about the difference between what a prophet is and what a leader is. And knowing prophets, their goal is to tell you the truth at all times and also guide you in a way that, you know, gives you opportunities to know that here's what's happening. I'm going to expose it all, You can choose what you want to choose, but I'm going to tell you in the way that, because I love you, I'm going to tell you the truth.
All right, and I definitely that's that's deep. That's deep,
Well, we're
and
mermaids.
I
Even
would
though
say,
Brienne White don't like mermaids, I say mermaids don't like shallow water. They like deep water. I don't
I
know
can
why
see that,
Brienne don't like mermaids.
and I think that when we speak about a couple of different things about Baldwin, excellent analysis on so many things that are still very prevalent today, and when more so your pieces going and honoring the work collaboratively with others and what that means for you in these conversations that you're having in your head, getting those conversations out. What's the like as you letting some people in to see some of these pieces? It's in, you say it's in Oakland now and it's traveling.
It'll be in Chicago next,
Okay.
and but I'll be when it opens. I'll be in Zimbabwe, so Ashara Ikandayo and Omomisha will be there to make sure the show is installed the way that we, every place dictates something different because of the physicality, how much work I have, how many installations I have, how much space I have. So every space that we've shown in has given us different. And the Joyce Gordon Gallery is the only commercial gallery out of all of them. NOAM is the New Orleans Museum of African American, well, it's called the New Orleans African American Museum. So their space was a little different as well. And then in Harlem, it was at the Interfaith Center on Harlem Drive. And so it's just depends on, and that had a whole bunch of vitrines, which are small, like actually big boxes that you can put installations in and art. And it was really great, to have it there and then move to another space and then move to another space. And now it's getting packed up this weekend to move to Chicago for the Blanc Gallery. My collaboration has been really set in motion because of Omomisha and Ashara. Now, with Omomisha, this last iteration of the show, we collaborated with a young artist who only does augmented reality. So he had his nephew do all the research on James Baldwin, and this young man is 25. He heard about James Baldwin, but he didn't know what he knew until he knew, right? And he didn't know what he didn't know until he found out he didn't know. He did all this research, and every single one of the pieces in the show now at the gallery, there are over 30 pieces there. He's got them augmented. So when you hit it with the, let me tell you the name of it, it's Black Terminus, the augmented reality Black Terminus, that's it. It's kind of cool. You hit the piece and it actually gives you James Baldwin's voice. Or it'll change the piece and it's animated and you can see the piece move with
It's
his
interesting.
voice and even his face, and he's debating or he's on a talk show, and all of my pieces, all of them have that. And I'm like, I'm blown away because it's new medium to me on top of my medium.
Okay, now we're getting into like something so deep as we get closer to a close, but this is a great space to be in.
It introduces James Baldwin to young people who've never seen him.
And that's where I was going to say, but also, as you say, that foundation working collaboratively with artists, and they're going to see as what I often say is like a prism, so like, light hits a prism,
Yeah, it's a
shines
full
on.
spectrum. It's like jumping everywhere. It's like, and wherever the pieces go, Black Terminus follows the piece. That app is existing in whatever the space is beyond where we are, wherever the work goes. If it goes to Paris and you download that Black Terminus app, you'll have that augmented piece in Paris. You'll have it here in Detroit. It'll be in Chicago. It'll be wherever the work goes.
So, collaborating with artists. And you've done it for a long time. And for some people, it's like, oh, artists, ugh. how do you collaborate so well with artists? How do you get on these projects, the timelines, the passion, the creativity? Where does that flow? Where does that bond build?
Where did Jay Dilla get his flow from? I mean, it's like how you're fed, it's how you eat. You can eat the same bland food all the time, but it's so good when you add a different seasoning and sauce to it. Or you ask somebody who cooks differently than you to come in your kitchen and show you how they make. So it makes sense as a being to collaborate with other beings. It's just another conversation. And it extends the conversation and makes it so much more beautiful. Like Ashara was saying, hey, I'm not the kind of curator that just hangs shit on the wall and then we walk away and just let it show until the show date is over. What we have is programming, where you decide to have conversations with Oakland's poet laureate, or you invite Tango or, Ayodele or others to write on your work and have conversations about your work because we all see things differently. We see them the way we are. Like Anais Nin says, to take it back to that. When you've got great people from Detroit like Dilla, like Amp Fiddler, like Gilda Snowden, the word is collaborate. Like, you need to collaborate. Let's add another beat on top of the beat that you got. Where does techno music come from? I'm a Motown baby. I am born during the rebellion. We had to collaborate in order to make it as people. You had a green book. That was called a collaboration. Know where not to go or know who to bring on or who to bring with you.
And it's so many people afraid of that. Why do you think so many people have so many fears of collaboration? The ideas of distrust, or here's the classic one that a lot of times people say, and me and my so many people, it's like they gonna take your idea, they gonna do this or they gonna do that. Like, why do you think that's even a prevalent conversation
Well,
today?
I think with artists, we know some of the best thieves are artists. There is nothing new on this little floating rock. We might chew something up and then spit it out differently, or we might do a collage. But I'm going to be influenced by who's around me, and you might take a piece of this and a piece of that, and you put it together, and we got, a sample, if you must. But it sounds so good, even when you know the root of where it came from. There is nothing I'm saying about James Baldwin that is new. There are so many writers out here who are related to him, who are Baldwinites. I am not a Baldwinite. I am Baldwinning. Okay? I'm asking questions. I'm still learning. I'm collaborating with these curators, with these augmented reality designers, with young folks. There's a young girl, Shawnee Peters is a great artist in New Orleans. She was born in Lansing. She grew up around here. Her parents live in Dearborn. She ended up going to New York and living there for a while. She met her husband. They got married. They moved back to New Orleans, where he's from. They just opened up a place called the Black School, where they're teaching kids how to design and do art. And they got a whole sweet-ass jumpsuit that me and Mario and Ashara have called the Black School. Check this out. Her baby comes to one of the workshops at the NOAM Museum, the New Orleans African American Museum, while my show is up. The show is called Frontline Prophet. Now she comes in, I have all these sketchbooks in the room. I'm telling everybody, let's start by doing a hashtag called Draw 'em Out. We're not going to do Inktober no more because his words are weak and whack, and he mad that everybody's using them. So now we're going to call October Draw 'em Out or Blacktober. Hashtag Draw 'em Out. Pick a black hero and draw him every day for 31 days. So this little girl comes in the room and she draws and she colors really big. And I still have the drawing right here in my Baldwinning sketchbook. And she writes on it, and I said, can you sign it for me? Now, I knew her name, but she didn't sign the drawing. So she signs the drawing. This is the drawing. I think she's about 6. And if you look at it, while she's signing the drawing, Shawnee is her mother across the room. She says, pay attention to those A's and those B's, because she's trying to get her in order. Come to find out, Baldwin is her name, and she writes them backwards. So I was like, you told her to pay attention to the A's and the B's, but you didn't tell her to pay attention to that D, so it's backwards. But this is her drawing. This is my collaboration with Baldwin.
Wow.
She says to me, my name is Baldwin. My mommy and my daddy named me after Baldwin. He's the writer. I was like, you know what? You are so smart. So I'm taking this drawing with me to Paris. Baldwin is going to be showing with my Baldwin show.
That's deep.
So I keep this in my sketchbook because Baldwin did it. This is our collaboration in my Baldwinning sketchbook. This is going with me to Paris.
That's deep. That's deep. So with that, we got to close.
Okay.
But classic Detroit is different questions. This is round 2. So now I'm going to actually try some questions that on you that
Okay.
other people clunked up.
Okay.
Favorite adjective?
Adjective. I'm good with words, but first I have to make sure that I'm right on the definition of adjective. Give me the definition.
For me, it's a word that describes something.
Oh, okay. So I like to say.
I'll give you the.
No, I got my favorite adjective word. It don't even exist, but it's in the Sabrina dictionary.
Okay.
Dope-tastic.
Okay. Break
So
it down.
dope-tastic, like when somebody says something looks really good, I say it's dope-tastically fly.
Also, yeah, Sabrina's like E40 as far as like the different language and isms.
Yeah,
and
I got my
things that
own.
she
I got
has.
my own
Yes.
word because I'm bald winning and I'm dope-tastically fly.
All right. Okay. This is usually like an outside person because I asked, like, would you rename what word, but you're not there. Okay. Now, aliens come to Detroit.
Okay.
They hanging out and kicking it with you.
Yeah.
Where's the first place you taking them?
Oh, somebody asked me that already. Michaela asked me in the Herstories podcast, where would I take James Baldwin? And I said I would take him to Baker's and I would take him to Eastern Market to hang out at Bert's. But if they were an alien and I needed them to know more about who we were, I would take them to either an anthropology space. I would take them through a science center and maybe a historical space. So I visited NASA recently, and I thought it was really a great place to visit. I like going to different cities and really, really delving into the history of how that city came to be. So a historical institution that held archives. So any archival space holding place. So if they came and they were hanging out with me, I think I would take them to definitely the Detroit Historical Museum. I'd take them to the Charles H. Wright. I'd take them to museums and museums that specifically have archival libraries. And then I'd invite Jermon with me and we'd go eat with them and talk.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, here's one I came up with. On
Yeah.
the fly.
Okay.
So this is going to be an interesting one.
I like them.
Okay. All right. And I think I know what you're going to say.
Okay.
Dead or alive. One, I think I already know, so I'm going to say 2. 2 people had to couch surf with at your crib for 1 whole month. Who them 2 people?
Oh my goodness. Someone who holds so much information in their head. I am a person who wants to know everything. So they would be so fat hanging out on my porch. I'd be like, what you want to eat? Because we not getting up. I'm going to bring you a porta potty too.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of so many intellectual beings that have passed. I'd have to do some research on women philosophers, but I like Alan Watts.
Okay.
I think James Baldwin would be great to have on my couch because I not only like the way he looks in terms of how deep set his eyes are and how big they are and how interesting his teeth look when I draw them. Like his mouth spreads so wide when he laughs. It's almost like the Cheshire cat in Alice in the Wonderland. You can see the corner of his mouth curl and the deep set lines in his chin. But I'm looking from an artistic point of view, like the lines that are here that I'm drawing and how big his eyes are. I would love to just buy him a bottle of whatever he drank and just sit at the hem of his garment and listen to him speak. However, his voice is pretty good, but Toni Morrison's voice, I would just be in love. I wouldn't say anything. I don't even know if I could have questions. There are some people that I am just starstruck as to how beautiful they are, and the words that they say just look like I'm seeing music that floats out of their mouth and lands somewhere and just kind of just waves down and embraces you. That's Toni Morrison for me. Like her voice is just like melodic. It's almost like she's a siren, but if she's going to suck you and pull you under, it's just so that she can hug your brain and let you go.
Okay. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. I'm gonna work more on that question out, but I like it that you actually were willing to take a crack at it. Because now I'm thinking, I thought you were gonna say James Baldwin and your great great grandmother, even though I guess that would probably lead off with.
Well, so they're not gone, though. They're with me.
Okay.
So I feel like James Baldwin picked me. When people say, "How did you get obsessed?" I felt him touch me
Connected to.
in
Okay.
the American University
So
of
y'all
Paris. So
already
we're
there.
on this walk together.
Okay.
My ancestors are inside me. So my great grandmother, if you listen, you can hear them. They're telling you, "Don't do that. Hey, don't do that."
So they'd be like, she'd be like, oh,
Yeah. So if
put a
you
little bit more,
right,
put a little bit more
you better
spice
clean
in
them
there.
greens better, So I'm taking my people with me wherever I go. So I haven't let them go. My mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, my father, wherever I walk, they are.
So I guess maybe I need to reverse this question. Let's take it there. Any era of time, where would you like to couch surf?
Oh man, I want to be in the Black Wall Street before that happened, before they took them out, before they were bombed, where all the blacks own things, and before this country took them off the map. I
Yeah.
want to be a part of that.
And let's give some other classic American information. Two times the United States government actually bombed people inside the United States. Both times happened to be black people.
Yeah, Rosewood and
So you're looking at definitely Oklahoma City
Oklahoma. Yeah, I
and
want to be there.
Black Wall Street, but also the Move movement in Philadelphia. It's a
Yeah,
great,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that
great
happened, and
documentary.
there were several Black Panthers talked about it, and other people talked about it. So I want to be a part of those communities before they were wiped out. I want to see what it is to be free, to move about the cabin with security and knowing that you worked for this and this is yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like right before it got destroyed, there had to be some really beautiful moments. And so that's where I would like to be. And the way that they cared for each other and the way that they dressed. They were good people, and they cared about themselves and the people who came after them, and they worked for the people who were coming that they didn't even know were coming. So that's the community I want to be in. If I could surf back in time,
Okay.
just for a moment, or to be a part of that community of expatriates who left this country and met each other in Paris. It was like, hey Josephine, hey Nina, you know, hey James,
I'm with it.
bonsoir.
I'm with it.
Like I want to be a part of that.
Okay. I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. I want to definitely thank you so much. Some collaboration is coming sooner between Sabrina and Detroit is different. We're going to do something.
Okay.
I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to definitely be creative. I can guarantee you that.
Could you imagine sitting on a couch with Malcolm X? after he went to Mecca. That would be great too. I have so many, it's too many. But Malcolm X would be one, right? And I just want to sit with Tony and I want to sit with James, but I also want to sit with some of these great artists like Selma Burke, who did the dime. You know, she did the raised up Roosevelt dime, and people don't talk about her, or Augusta Savage, or Jacob Lawrence, or any, you know, I just want to be walking around during the Harlem Renaissance and be like, what up, though, Aaron? You know, like if I could be a part of that. There's so many artists I would just sit on a couch with and be like, they did what?
See, it's funny too, because like if you ask me this question, it's like it's people I think I would have fun with hanging out with that I don't know if because they may be too much fun. The couch, it's almost like you want to be with a chill person, couch surfing. So I think that would be like, that would be like possibly a Curtis Mayfield or
Yeah, that would be cool too.
you know, I don't know what demons he had, but even like the night before Donny Hathaway did Donny Hathaway Live in Chicago, I assume that was probably like a real cool.
Could you imagine sitting with Minnie Riperton before she found out she had cancer?
That would probably be.
And she had Maya, right? Like, I would love that. Also, I want to clean Frida Kahlo's brushes while she's painting in her bed just before she dies. Like, I want to be that brush cleaning girl. Wow. And I want to speak a full throttle Spanish. And I want to just ask her, you know, was it great? You know, there's so many spirits, but I also feel like I carry them with me.
That's deep. I love it. I love it. As always, Detroit is different. Sabrina, thank you so much. We're going to probably keep this going annually because you can pull in the energies and the spirits.
I like it. They all here with us. They know.
I'm with. Peace.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.